Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the academic convocation of the Naval War College. We are pleased to welcome a total of 545 students from our armed services, civilian employees of the federal government, and military officers from around the globe. Please remain seated for the academic procession led by the Marshal, Professor Charles Chadbourne, and Dr. John F. Garofano, Dean of Academic Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for our national anthem and invocation. The national anthem will be sung by musician second class Nina Church, Navy Band Northeast. Please join her in singing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we'd hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we'd watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Commander Douglas E. Rosender, Chaplain Corps, U.S. Navy, Naval War College Chaplain, will deliver the invocation.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, as we gather this day, we come from many nations, many services, and many backgrounds. With anticipation and expectation, we now begin a course of study and pray that it will provide not only personal satisfaction and professional expertise, but also enhance national and international peace and security. We thank you for those who have brought us to this point in our careers so that we may continue our growth. We give thanks for families, teachers, mentors, and leaders. And Lord, please watch over those who serve today in harm's way and be near to their families and loved ones who await their safe return. Bless now this occasion and continue your care and watch over each person present, through the one who saves. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, on the stage this morning are Dr. Michael Pavkovich, Chair, Strategy and Policy Department; Captain Alan Abramson, Chair, Joint Military Operations Department; Dr. Jay Hickey, Director, College of Distance Education; Dr. David Cooper, Chair, National Security Affairs Department; Professor Thomas Mangold, Dean of the International Programs and Maritime Security Cooperation; Rear Admiral Retired Jamie Kelly, Dean of the College of Operational and Strategic Leadership; Professor Robert Rubel, Dean of the Center for Naval Warfare Studies; Dr. John F. Garofano, Dean of Academic Affairs; Ambassador Retired Marianne Peters, Provost; Rear Admiral Walter E. Carter, President of the United States Naval War College; Vice Admiral Robert S. Harward, Deputy Commander, U.S. Central Command. Will the senior class, members of the Naval Command College and College of Naval Warfare, please rise? Captain Perry Yaw, Director of the Naval Command College, will present the 44 nations represented in our Naval Command College.
Good morning. The following nations represent the class of 2014: Algeria, Australia, Bangladesh, Brazil, Bulgaria, Cameroon, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Denmark, the Dominican Republic, France, Germany, Greece, India, Indonesia, Israel, Italy, Jordan, Korea, Kuwait, Lebanon, Lithuania, Malaysia, Mexico, Morocco, the Netherlands, Nigeria, Norway, Pakistan, Poland, Romania, Singapore, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Thailand, Tunisia, Ukraine, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and Yemen.
They will be joined in class by members of our College of Naval Warfare, which includes students from the United States Air Force, Air National Guard, Army, Army National Guard, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Navy, and civilians representing the Central Intelligence Agency, Defense Senior Leadership Development Program, Department of Homeland Security, Department of State, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, National Security Agency and Central Security Service, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Please be seated. Will the intermediate class, members of the Naval Staff College and College of Naval Command and Staff, please rise? Captain Mark Turner, Director, Naval Staff College, will present the 39 nations represented in our Naval Staff College.
The following nations will be represented in Class 2014: Algeria, Bangladesh, Benin, Bulgaria, Canada, Colombia, Djibouti, Estonia, Ghana, India, Indonesia, Iraq, Israel, Japan, Jordan, Korea, Kuwait, Mexico, Morocco, Norway, Oman, Pakistan, Poland, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Sweden, Taiwan, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, United States of America, Vietnam, Yemen.
They will be joined in class by members of our College of Naval Command and Staff, which includes students from the United States Air Force, Air National Guard, Army, Air National Guard, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, and Navy, and civilians representing the Central Intelligence Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, Department of State, Military Sea Left Command, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, United States Special Operations Command. Please be seated. On October 6, 1884, Secretary of the Navy William E. Chandler signed General Order 325, which began by stating,
A college is hereby established for an advanced course of professional study for naval officers, to be known as the Naval War College. The principal building on Coaster's Harbor Island, Newport, Rhode Island, will be assigned to its use and is hereby transferred, with the surrounding structures and the grounds immediately adjacent, to the custody and control of the Bureau of Navigation for that purpose. The college will be under the immediate charge of an officer of the Navy, not below the grade of commander, to be known as the President of the Naval War College. He will be assisted in the performance of his duties by a faculty. A course of instruction embracing the higher branches of professional study will be arranged by a board, consisting of all members of the faculty and including the President, who will be the presiding officer of the board. The course of instruction will be open to all officers above the grade of Naval Cadet. Commodore Stephen B. Luce has been assigned to duty as president of the college.
It has been over 125 years since that order establishing the Naval War College was issued. In that time, the college has adhered remarkably to the basic mission and core values envisioned. Here to share with you a brief history of the Naval War College is the Naval War College Museum Director of Education, Professor John W. Kennedy.
Good morning. The Naval War College owes its creation to the vision and persistence of one man, Stephen B. Luce. Almost a century and a half ago, young Lieutenant Luce was assigned to the Naval Academy faculty. There he realized that his branch of the service was not providing the training or education in key professional areas. The Naval Academy had no textbook for seamanship, so Luce wrote it, and it stood as United States Navy standard for nearly 40 years. As he rose in rank and widened his experience through the command of 7 different vessels, in peace and in war, under sail and under steam, Stephen Luce saw other inadequacies in the Navy's professional preparedness for its officers and men. As the commander of a fleet division, he saw that there was neither a procedure to exercise naval tactics nor a unit assigned to examine experimental tactical ideas, so he created both. At the same time, he saw there was no preparatory training for recruits in the United States Navy, so he established the first shore-based enlisted training facility right here on Coasters Harbor Island in 1883. Then, when he rose to Rear Admiral and commander of the North Atlantic Squadron, which was the Navy's most senior active duty billet, he turned to implement a long-standing goal. Since the time of his combat service in the 1860s, he had realized there was no place in the Navy to study the most important and central issue for professional officers in the armed forces: war. His age, like ours, was a time of rapidly changing technology, periods that some are fond of labeling as a revolution in military affairs. Then as now, the main focus of professional life was on technology and science, on metallurgy, on applications of electricity, on the chemistry and physics of weapons, and a host of related matters. Luce fully recognized and appreciated the importance of these matters as fundamental to the success of modern warfare. But he saw more clearly than others that these were only the means for success in solving a broader problem that most officers ignored: the issue of war itself. As Luce repeatedly pointed out, war is a central issue around which the profession of arms exists, and there was no existing institution where a naval officer could study this. Thus, he persuaded the Navy Department to establish the Naval War College in October 1884, making the name of the institution into a constant daily reminder to students and faculty to the purpose and focus of its work. In creating the college's first faculty and curriculum, Luce established the approach that has been repeatedly renewed, refined, and reaffirmed for over a century in seeking to understand war in its broadest dimensions. It is a major area of study, but one that few undertake then or now, and it requires original research and new thinking to understand how wars begin, how wars are fought, how wars end, and how they can be prevented. The highest aspects of this professional subject involve understanding government management, finance, decision-making, logistics, campaign planning and tactics, international relations, and grand strategy. The analytical tools for such study lay in approaches that most naval officers of his time were unfamiliar with: social sciences and politics, history, management, and international law, as well as understanding the roles of the other services and their approaches to war. To study these matters, Luce added a new tool for the broad analysis: wargaming. Then in its infancy, Luce foresaw that the college's game boards could become the key tool that linked the broad analysis of political military issues with the burgeoning development in current and future naval technologies. So he empowered Lieutenant William McCarty Little to innovate and to develop this area. With Luce's concept for the college's focus, the Naval War College came to make a wide range of contributions that has earned it a widespread reputation through this century and a quarter. The student body gradually widened. Soon the college welcomed its first students from foreign navies, officers from Sweden in 1894 and from Denmark in 1895, presaging by 60 years the wider and more comprehensive international programs that we have today. While the courses and seminar discussions established the locus for learning, faculty members went on to make significant contributions. Most famously of all the college's contributions, Captain Alfred Thayer Mahan's lectures on naval history provided the basis that created, for the first time, an understanding of naval strategy. Eventually published in book form, Mahan's influenced naval history and naval thinking around the globe and for decades to come. Captain Charles Stockton published the first attempt to write a code for international law for naval operations, and within a decade it became the focus for international discussions and a basis for the modern law of naval warfare. Meanwhile, the college was making other contributions. Officers here played a key role in creating the country's first contingency plans for war, some of which were used during the Spanish-American War in 1898. Also in the early years of the 20th century, the Naval War College was the principal engine behind the creation of operational naval doctrine and the innovation of the operational staff to support flag officers at sea. In addition, the college was the wellspring for the long-term movement that eventually led to the creation of the Chief of Naval Operations in 1915, with his shore-based naval staff to advise government leaders in Washington and to give the Navy the professional uniform leadership it had not previously had. Following the First World War, Naval War College students and faculty looked critically at recent naval operations, and in the light of arms limitation treaties began to think innovatively about the future, those operations involving submarines, aircraft, and amphibious forces. Continuing through the 1930s, they made significant contributions to the development of War Plan Orange, used during World War II. Admiral Raymond Spruance, the victor of the Battle of Midway, returned to the Naval War College for the fourth tour of his career in 1946. He established the college direction during the Cold War. During that period, much thought was given to the issues of nuclear weapons and multinational cooperation. More recently, the college contributed substantially to the thinking behind the maritime strategy of the 1980s, the conduct of the Gulf War in 1990 and 91, as it did in helping to create the maritime strategy for the 21st century. And it is currently continuing to take a leadership role in strategic thinking today. All of you here today are a part of that continuing story. As entering students here at the Naval War College today, you now become a part of this heritage. It is a heritage that stands as a personal challenge to each and every one of us, both those of you who are here for the first time today and for those of us that have been here for decades. In short, what I have to say is, what happened then matters now. The words spoken by Admiral Luce to some of your predecessors in 1903 are still relevant today. And to once again share his wisdom with us, I do believe I hear Admiral Luce approaching now.
Mr. President, Admiral, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to speak to you today, and one that I highly appreciate. If you would permit me, I would like to say something about the aims and objects of this college. Although called a college, this institution differs from all other seats of learning. A moment's consideration will show why this must be so. As its name implies, the principal object of the college is the study of the science and art of war. Now, war is a very large and comprehensive subject, and it would be the height of presumption on the part of this college to undertake to teach officers of mature years any branch whatever of their profession, even the most elementary. All that the college can do, all that it professes to do, is to invite officers to come to it and to offer them every facility for pursuing the study of the highest branches of their profession. All here, faculty and class alike, occupy the same plane, without distinction of age, rank, or assumption of superior attainments. All are pursuing one and the same end: the advancement of their profession. We speak habitually of the science and art of war. As a science, it recognizes certain general principles, which are just as applicable today as they were in the time of the great Athenian admiral Themistocles. A strict adherence to those principles has not always ensured victory, it is true, but a violation of them, either through ignorance or neglect, has almost invariably led to defeat. Military writers have been careful to warn us that although war, in its most extended sense, may be called a science, yet it is not an exact science. As an art, war is governed by rules which vary from age to age. Art, it has been well said, may be learned, but it cannot be taught. This is particularly true of the art of war. It cannot be taught, excepting insofar as one may teach oneself, and it is to offer every officer the opportunity of teaching himself that the college doors are open. That war is the best school of war is one of those dangerous and delusive sayings that contain just enough truth to secure currency. He who waits for war to learn his profession often acquired his knowledge at a frightful cost of human life. Change, continual, unremitting change, is the law of the universe. Stagnation means atrophy and death. It is not enough to keep abreast of the times. This college must be in the very front rank of the advance guard of progress. To obtain some perception, however dim, of the future, we must study the past. This teaches us that the civilization we now enjoy was brought about by war. The proud position we, as a nation, now occupy was rendered possible only by wars. And future problems in the destiny of man will be worked out through the instrumentality of the sword. There is no escaping it. We are no apologists for war, heaven forbid. We simply regard it from a common sense point of view as one of the many evils flesh is heir to. War is a dreadful scourge, we all admit. It is a relic of barbarism. We admit everything that can be said against war, but after all has been said, no student of history, however superficial, can deny that through that same dreadful scourge, ultimate good has been brought about. It has been so in the past, and as far as human discernment can go, it must be so in the future. However, war may, in certain instances, be averted. But mark this well. It may be averted in one way and one way only. And that way is to be fully prepared for it. That is the meaning of this college. It is an instrumentality for the prevention of war by being prepared for it. To be prepared for war is the role of the naval strategist. To be in the right time, at the right place, and with adequate force means success by checkmating your adversary in the first few moves. Campaigns have been won without firing a shot, simply by skillful strategic movements. It is the business of this college to study all the various problems of war as they may affect this country. It is quite unnecessary to explain to such an audience as I have the honor of addressing that the college itself has no power whatever to act. nor authority to formulate naval policy. Its aim is simply to invite officers to meet together to discuss questions pertaining to the highest branches of their profession and enable each one, according to his own inclinations, to prepare himself for the highest and most responsible duties that can devolve upon a naval officer. One thing must be borne in mind. At the firing of the first gun proclaiming war, the so-called inspiration of genius may be trusted only when it is the result of long and careful study and reflection. If attendance here will serve in any degree to broaden an officer's views, extend his mental horizon on national and international question, and give him a just appreciation of the great variety and extent of the requirements of his profession, this college will not have existed in vain. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 54th President of the United States Naval War College, Rear Admiral Ted Carter.
All right, well, I want you all to know right up front, I approved that event to happen. And I know I have an incredibly tough act to follow. I've never actually spoken in an audience like this following a professional actor. But I'm going to do my best to make this interesting for you for the next few minutes. But before I begin, I do want to thank, that was our Commander Ty Lemeron for that absolutely spectacular and marvelous recreation of Rear Admiral Stephen B. Luce. Let's give him another round of applause. Vice Admiral Harwood, Ambassador Peters, Admiral Barrera, Major General Sider, faculty and staff, and especially to the U.S. Naval War College class of 2014. Welcome to the convocation of the Naval War College's 130th anniversary. Our institution is the oldest of its kind in the world and arguably the most prestigious and relevant today. The term convocation is defined as a, quote, ceremonial assembly of members of a college or university, unquote. We follow this time-honored academic tradition for an important reason. This ceremony serves as a public recognition that our calling together is about to begin. Each of us has arrived at this point by following very different paths, and the cut and color of various uniforms and business suits in the audience provides evidence of the many military services, agencies, and nations that comprise our unique college. We take pride in the fact that the cultural, religious, and ethnic diversity of this gathering is unmatched on any campus in the land. And yet, from such diversity will arise one entity, a company of scholars with common goals and a common purpose. In my capacity as President, U.S. Naval War College, it is my distinct honor and duty to declare the 2014 academic program is officially in session. And now, I challenge each and every student with one simple mission. I want each and every one of you to think. That is your mission for the next year. We're here in Newport, a place of endless opportunities and a place that represents an investment in you. This year of study you begin today will be a watershed event in your professional career and in your professional and personal lives. While you will not be billed for tuition, books, or supplies at this college, you will be asked to contribute your most valuable commodities, your time and your intellectual energy. Let me share the thoughts of one of our most distinguished graduates, General Charles Charlie Wilhelm, United States Marine Corps, former commander of U.S. Southern Command, and a recipient of the college's Distinguished Graduate Leadership Award, often referred to this institution as, quote, the Ivy League of the professional military education, unquote. And he did say, and I do quote, "I finally figured out exactly where the War College fits in the long and challenging journey we call a military career. Whether we sail a ship, drive a tank, fly a plane, or help those that do, for the first half of a 30-year career, the physical part of our vocation dominates the intellectual part. During those first 15 years, we spend the majority of our time sailing, driving, flying, or supporting. During the second 15 years, the process reverses itself, and the intellectual pursuits largely dominate the physical. Rather than sail the ship, drive the tank, or fly the plane, we design, test, or buy them." General Wilhelm went on to say, "I have come to think of the Naval War College as that mid-career bridge that allowed me to pass over the gully, separating the physical and intellectual segments of my career," unquote. Today's ceremony begins our academic year and provides us with the opportunity to focus the attention of both the students and the faculty on where we are going. The main battery of this institution is our educational endeavors. We're committed to providing the best possible environment for learning. Our talented and dedicated faculty will provide guidance and mentorship as each student engages our carefully crafted curricula. You will find learning partners to share your intellectual journey. Some of these partners are professional educators from our world-class faculty, while others are your seminar mates and fellow students. But know this, for our students, you are a seat that many ask for. There are those who were not selected, and those who have fallen in the field of battle who will never have the chance you have been given. This is where you will make the transition from relying on youthful strength and enthusiasm to mature wisdom and perspective. To maximize the return on the investment of time being made by each student, the college will help focus your studies by presenting you with our widely praised and often emulated curriculum of strategy and policy, national security affairs, joint military operations, and electives. In addition to teaching, the Naval War College is also home to some of the best research being done anywhere in the world on maritime issues. The Center for Naval Warfare Studies provides students and visiting scholars with the opportunity to conduct rigorous research on problems of significant interest to the operating forces. Our Strategic Research Department, the Advanced Research Department, the International Law Department, and the Wargaming Department all sponsor both near-term and long-term research and manage the ever more recognized Halsey, Mahan, and Gravely Scholarship programs. Our College of Operational and Strategic Leadership shapes leadership education through the Navy, executes the Naval War College Ethics Program, and leads the Stockdale Scholars, the Maritime Staff Officers Course, the Joint and Combined Force Maritime Component Commanders Course, as well as other educational opportunities requested by our fleet commanders. They are assisting the Chief of Naval Operations in creating the Navy Leadership Development Strategy, which defines the ways, means, and ends of a career-long leader development continuum. Convocation also marks a new beginning for our world-class faculty and dedicated loyal staff. We are just concluding a most unusual period where our highly valued civilians were subjected to mandatory furloughs that kept them from doing the jobs they love in a manner in which they should be done. These furloughs will end soon, and we are committed to protecting and respecting our faculty and staff. We will make every effort to minimize the impact that budgetary cuts have made on our educational programs as we move into the next fiscal year. Whether you're a student, a spouse, or family member, I encourage you to wisely invest your time in getting all you can from the year at this historic Naval War College in this wonderful city in this beautiful region of the United States. Your investment will be amply repaid, and you will join an elite alumnus who look back with great memories of their time here in Newport. To our students, congratulations again. Now, steel your hearts and minds and put yourself to the task at hand. It is now my distinct privilege to recognize our distinguished graduate. Sir, I knew you were going to get to you here. Today is the 18th time that the Naval War College has presented its Distinguished Graduate Leadership Award. The award was established in 1995 to recognize the accomplishments of our most distinguished graduates, alumni who used their Naval War College experience as a springboard to positions of senior leadership and national prominence. These alumni serve as an inspiration role models for current and future students. The award was first presented in 1996 to the late General John M. Shalikashvili, then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Your program includes a complete list of others recognized over the years. We are now honored to present the 2013 award to a truly inspirational leader, Vice Admiral Robert Bob S. Harwood. Admiral Harwood's complete biography is included in your program, so I will just mention a couple highlights. First, I should note that this is a real homecoming for Admiral Harwood, since he was born here in Newport, Rhode Island, to a Navy family. He later graduated from Tehran American High School in Iran. After enlisting in the Navy, he was awarded a fleet appointment to the United States Naval Academy, where he received his bachelor's degree in 1979. After commissioning, he qualified as a surface warfare officer and then transferred to the Naval Special Warfare Community. He was the honor man of Basic Underwater Demolition BUD/Sea Air Land SEAL Class 128 and has served in both East and West Coast SEAL teams. And if you were up at 5:15 this morning working out with the Napsters, you may have seen a young Vice Admiral Bob Harwood leading the PT session. He's known as the SEAL, having more active SEAL raids to his credit than virtually any other special warfare operative. His senior command positions have included Commander Naval Special Warfare Group 1 and Deputy Commanding General, Joint Special Operations Command. Assignments outside of his community include a tour in the Executive Office of the President at the White House, where he served as the National Security Council as the Director of Strategy and Policy for the Office of Combating Terrorism. His first flag assignment was Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Representative to the National Counterterrorism Center, NCTC, as a member of the Senior Interagency Strategy Team. Additionally, he served as Deputy Commander, U.S. Joint Forces Command, and most recently, he served in Afghanistan as Commander of Combined Joint Interagency Task Force CGIATA 435 from 2009 to 2011. Admiral Harwood has commanded troops in Afghanistan and Iraq for a cumulative total of more than 6 years since September 11, 2001. A scholar as well as a warrior, Admiral Harwood attended the College of Naval Command and Staff and the Naval Staff College here in Newport. He also served as a Federal Executive Fellow at the RAND Corporation and is a graduate of the Massachusetts Institute Technology Center for International Studies Foreign Policy Program. In every way, Admiral Harwood represents the ideals for which the Distinguished Graduate Leadership Award was established. Now, Admiral Harwood and Major General Sider, Chairman of the Naval War College Foundation Board of Trustees, would you please join me at the center of the stage for the citation and the presentation of the award.
The President, U.S. Naval War College, takes pleasure in presenting this certificate to Vice Admiral Robert S. Harwood, U.S. Navy, in recognition of his exceptional service to the nation, the Department of Defense, and the U.S. Naval War College. He is hereby designated as the year 2013 recipient of the Distinguished Graduate Leadership Award. Sponsored by the Naval War College Foundation, this award recognizes the recipient's unparalleled dedication to duty, unwavering sense of personal and professional integrity, and his insatiable intellectual curiosity. These traits, which form the bedrock upon which the U.S. Naval War College was established over a century ago, have been instrumental in enabling this distinguished graduate to set a standard for excellence which all future graduates will strive to achieve. Presented this 19th day of August, 2013, signed W.E. Carter, Jr., Rear Admiral, U.S. Navy, President, U.S. Naval War College. Ladies and gentlemen, the 18th recipient of the Distinguished Graduate Leadership Award, Vice Admiral Harwood.
Slapshot, thank you. I got to thank you, your predecessor, John Christensen, two good friends of mine, and to all of you, the students, the faculty, the alumni, all the friends of the Naval War College. I'm really honored, but more so really humbled to be here and realizing we're going into the second hour in the Blue Room as a test of your commitment here for the next hour or two. I'd also have to say thanks. I see a lot of wives and husbands of those in uniform here today. You've been part of the program and getting your members here. We know where the real brains of the operation are, but more importantly, it makes this somewhat of a visually appealing ceremony by having you here with us today. And as I look around the crowd, I see Herm, I see so many of my close shipmates and friends over this journey I've been on for 40 years, and it's just great to be here with you today. And I, again, would like to thank all of you. I really am an amalgamation of all of you. There's a very famous naval saying that I've epitomized and lived through in my career. I must follow my men and women, for I am their leader. This school, and this faculty, and the students here are a real testament to that. And it's just great to be back in Newport to see this new crew launched on the nation and our global coalition's finest officers into the deep blue waters of learning about our profession. It's going to be challenging, it's going to be incredibly rewarding, but more so, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So enjoy the ride and make the most of you. I have to tell you, though, this invitation made me think about a story about former Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, who had a guest at a Moscow social event, told a story about a man who ran wild through the Kremlin one day. He was shouting, "Khrushchev is a fool, Khrushchev is a fool." So the premier went on to tell everyone how he was imprisoned. They placed him in prison for 23 years. 3 for insulting the party secretariat, and 20 for revealing a state secret. Your distinguished graduate selection committee may not do any hard time for lies or revelation of state secrets, but it's funny to see the parallels between that poor Russian's foolishness and those who might say Harvard is distinguished. So despite the insidious nature of this peculiar lie, I'm proudly grateful and humbled for the committee for selecting me this year. It also reminds me, as has been the case in most of my promotions, that the system is obviously not perfect. So for me, the best part of being here was returning to my birthplace, where a lot of my significant naval experiences occurred, and to be back in one of our great Navy towns, something our service brothers and sisters, our interagency partners and coalition brothers and sisters and family will learn over this year. There's no better place to be. As some of you may have known, I was privileged to be a member of 2 classes here in 1993. Now, most people take the 18-month program because they're lacking in academic endeavor, and that was somewhat of my testament, but actually because I was selected for 2 courses. I was in the Naval Command and Staff course with all our, and then I was also the U.S. student in the Naval Staff class, college class 42. Our class has had many distinguished members. From that class, there has been so far been a total of 16 U.S. flag officers, general officers, and SES, including 7 who obtained the rank of 3 stars or before. But even more impressive and more pertinent to you, there were 29 international flag officers and general officers, 8 of which became their national equivalent of the U.S. Chief of Naval Operations. One of our shipmates and close friends just retired as the CNO of the Colombian Navy today, and one of ours is currently serving as the CNO of the Kuwaiti Navy. I had the privilege to serve with many of these officers in war and in peace, more so in their countries than in ours. most notably in Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Colombia, Philippines, and other nations. And the relationships and those bonds we established here served us all well. These great men were my classmates at Newport and my shipmates on the campaigns that followed. In many ways, I was carried along to my own success by being sucked into the vortex of their excellence. And before I got to Newport, I considered myself the consummate special operator, proficient in my craft both tactically and operationally. Yet Newport is where I first realized how, as in most of my academic institutes I attended, that I was seriously lacking in so many ways, as they prepared me here to comprehend and function at the strategic level of our profession. And every job from that point on required that understanding and all the skills I learned here, not just in the classes, but more so from my shipmates who shared and contributed to the academic endeavor. And as Slapshot said, that's your tasking this year. I would suggest, in fact, I know your careers, while unique in many ways, offer some common themes. You have excelled within your communities, contributing and leading in every position assigned. You have been selected as the future leaders who we will rely on to solve our most complex and challenging problems. From this point on, you will shape and guide our force of and for the future. While I've commanded at many levels over combined, joint, interagency, special operations, and conventional combat operations, but I really look back and understand that the task to command and guide the future force of the national force, our interagency and coalition force, much less detention operations and building rule of law for fledgling nations, none of which I had the experience or specific training on, was established here. What I did have was the education you will be exposed to this year. I was convinced, and I remain convinced, that it was this education that really prepared me best for these missions. The in-between assignments and experience at the Naval War College, RAND, MIT, and many tours with my coalition partners is what prepared me for whatever mission was required. In many ways, my commands were more simply a reflection of the Navy's investment, belief, and patience with me. I know all of you here today are disciples of education and of developing experiences. And I hope all of you have made a habit of rewarding the pursuit of those amongst your subordinates. I predict that our Navy and our services will demand the same and put a greater premium on those who have taken chances on their personal and professional growth opportunities as it prepares for a leadership corps that is fit for this tumultuous future we face. Today, I'd like to challenge each of you to make a commitment to promote and encourage disciples of better professional thinking. Your future will depend on it. Long ago, in the middle of some difficult times, there are reports that Winston Churchill once said, "We have run out of money. It's time to start thinking." This may be an overused phrase, but may be more relevant to your class than at any time in our nation and our Navy's modern history. Not long ago, I had the opportunity to speak to a smaller, somewhat motlier crew, the Center for Irregular Warfare and Armed Groups, commonly referred to as CIWG. I talked about the need for new thinking about special operations forces and irregular warfare, because the threats they have addressed so precisely over the past 12 years are changing and expanding rapidly. because in the near future we will pursue our enemies outside of the laws of armed conflict construct, which has allowed us great freedom of action over the past 12 years. Because we have learned to operate with endless resources to perform at the gold watch standard, and the future will not support this luxury. And because our enemy continued to avoid direct confrontation with us while they grow and enhance their capabilities. I told the CWAG group that these conditions indicate to me a greater than ever demand for critical thinking, strategic leadership, and the embrace of greater joint and combined interdependency. This dilemma that confronts the special operations community will challenge all of us, from the services to the interagency to our coalition partners, and not just operationally, but politically as well. For our military, these current realities threaten our paradigms for operations, programming, and strategy. In fact, we should expect that everything we will do in the coming years will be much more constrained and directed against much more complex and dynamic threats. Tactically, operationally, strategically, our problems are all changing at warp speed. But the ways and means we use to solve them are changing even faster, and with little hope of things getting better or easier. Ultimately, we must depend on one thing, and that's you, to bring on new thinking and find approaches that will preserve the warfighting dominance of our Navy, our joint force, and our global partnership and coalitions. The key component to solutions and accomplishing our missions is good old critical thinking about our operational and strategic experiences that we've had over the past 12 years. We need to learn from this history, but without being held hostage to it. Just because things worked a certain way in our most recent experience doesn't mean that's relevant or pertinent to the current environment. Let me challenge you with some of the problems we are confronting at CENTCOM. How do we confront an ever-expanding and vehemently violent anti-Western jihadist movement that has greater resources and capabilities than Al-Qaeda and that is protected by a better safe haven than the Fatah ever was? I would suggest that this movement represented a greater long-term geopolitical threat to our allies in our homeland than Al-Qaeda has over the past 12 years. And one of our students here, the Yemeni colonel in a group I talked to earlier, understood it personally and could articulate it in a manner I haven't seen any Western student address in many years. I would suggest that movement will be something we'll all have to confront at some time in the not too distant future. While we have more in common, both culturally and aspirationally, with the Iranian people than most people in the region, we struggle to support those that can affect internal change. Are economic sanctions enough to change Iran internally? What should our policy with Iran be as they continue to expand their capabilities in nuclear enrichment, cyber domain, power projection, and global reach? In the growing Sunni-Shia conflict, which threatens the stability of the region, how do we support moderate elements to establish representative governments reflective of our interests? At a point in history where our economic element of power can have the most impact, how do we balance its international application when our domestic demands are so overwhelming? How do we answer sequestration and maintain military dominance in a world that demands it? These are just a small part of the challenges and problems you will be called upon to address. The Khrushchev story I mentioned earlier is relevant here. The story comes from Senator John Fitzgerald Kennedy's 1961 Compendium of National Security Speeches entitled The Strategy of Peace, where he spoke to a Rochester University audience about the unique significance of a 1959 Nikita Khrushchev visit to the U.S. occurring at the height of the Cold War, which included significant media exposure in non-traditional interactive settings. In this speech, Senator Kennedy emphasized that the real significance of the visit was not that we achieved anything diplomatically. Quite frankly, we didn't. Instead, the significance was that almost after 15 years locked in perpetual conflict, we Americans finally were able to see and recognize the person, Nikita Khrushchev, as the passionate, confident, curious, and rational human that he certainly always had been. Every day, Americans and the political elite saw at once a Soviet premier who was not a raving lunatic demon, but instead he was seen as a man strongly inspired by logic and passion, and just that it happened to be contrary to our own. And a leader who felt as strongly about his own truths and creeds as Americans did. One recent commenter on his work, a good shipmate of ours, Admiral John Kirby, remarked that Kennedy told students to use the occasion of Khrushchev's journey across the pond as an opportunity to see the Soviet premier for the shrewd and confident man he was, not to fear him, understand him, or believe his prophecy of preordained Soviet ascendancy, but rather to take stock of him and to seize him up for who he was. And so it was the coincidental revelation of Khrushchev humanity that turned out to be so central to the development of a collective understanding of how to engage and eventually overcome the Soviet Union. From this event, I would suggest that confronting tomorrow's challenges will likewise benefit from exposing ourselves directly to our circumstances, and by clear-eyed acceptance of what is actually happening to us, and more importantly, the ability to clearly articulate in a compelling manner the problem and how our mission affects it or addresses it. As the global war on terror seems to wind down, or at least in conventional military terms, as lawfare constructs begin to impose themselves on our old ways of doing business, and as budgets dwindle and resources evaporate, I would charge you to take a big step back, keep your eyes wide open, and critically assess our threats and your opportunities and options, and take them on with a new and clearer knowledge of the realities in the realm of the possible. Our Marine Corps Commandant, and I see the cabal staying over there in their tribe all together there, has done exactly this recently, as first amongst the service chiefs to claim that he owns sequestration. The Marine Corps literally owns it. This is the sort of acceptance of our challenges that we all need. Next, I tell you to embrace and master your leadership skills in the unwidely combined, joint, and interagency domains. This is your near-term calling. These are stark contrasts between the leaderships required in these domains and the leadership that got you here today. You're going to have to step your game up. Now, we know the Navy has some rich institutions for professional education and training, for which the Army sends its best and brightest, such as notable graduates as General Odierno, General Dave Rodriguez, Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, who's actually a Newport native and still has a house over on 3rd Beach, General Stan McChrystal, and many more. And I'd like to have my Army compatriots please stand, if I could. Congratulations for all of you for escaping the hinterland You're not at Fort Bragg anymore. You won the lottery. Sit down, please. And now one of my favorite institutes is the U.S. Naval Academy, our alma mater, where I have to salute the midshipmen who have carried a heavy burden of educating the other service academies on the sport of football. This has been an extremely challenging endeavor with West Point over the past 12 years. And it could be decades before they really grasp the concepts of the game. But I know the Naval Academy is committed to the cause. And more seriously, though, the Naval War College here in Newport is the premier world-class center of education responsible for inculcating critical and strategic thinking. Make the most of it. Enjoy your time here before you're loaded back into the breach as soon as you're finished. Now, I'll close my remarks today with a comparison of your challenge to the pig's dilemma found in the fable of the chicken and the pig, where the chicken offers a partnership and a joint venture to the pig. The chicken proposes that they open a breakfast restaurant together, specializing in ham and eggs. After thinking about it for a time, the pig rejects the chicken's offer, out of concern that he, the pig, would be committed to the success of the venture, while the chicken would only be involved. Unlike the pig in this story, our great forces don't have the luxury to opt out of a commitment to broadening its outlook. Our bacon is already in the fire and always will be. We cannot fight or spend our way out of the current and near-term predicament. We must think and think better. It's now your turn to choose to go beyond a simple involvement in the joint venture for better thinking. You need to make the commitment. You must set positive conditions for self-development as you move forward and use this year and the tools they'll provide you to do that. Those who reward education in our naval services cannot remain a silent minority. Once again, I have to say I'm humbled to accept this recognition today on behalf of many distinguished classmates and shipmates. I look forward to being joined soon enough by the company of each of you and your cohorts who will drive our services and our great global coalition to even greater success, fame, and fortune. You are a war-hardened band of brothers and sisters who have long ago achieved great distinction in battlefields on land, air, sea, space, and the cyber domain from your positions as watchstanders, plan shops, boardrooms, and headquarters around the globe. I know that regardless of the challenges, you will succeed in the mission. You will hunt down our enemy wherever they may be and destroy them. I stand and salute each and every one of you. Godspeed. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now sing together the service songs of our nation's armed forces. We sing these songs based not on seniority of service, but upon the population of each service here at the War College. The words for each song can be found in the back of the program. We ask that each military and civilian service member, veterans and family members, please stand as their service song is sung. Please remain standing until the completion of all service songs. Will Captain Andy Norris, Senior Coast Guard Advisor, and all Coast Guard veterans, staff, faculty, and students, please rise. Please remain standing. Will Colonel Jamie Gagnon, Senior Marine Corps Advisor, and all Marine Corps veterans, staff, faculty, and students, please rise. Will Colonel Mike Pratt, Acting Senior Air Force Advisor, and all Air Force veterans, staff, faculty, and students, please rise. Colonel Ken Glitharmis, Acting Senior Army Advisor, and all Army veteran staff, faculty, and students, please rise. Will Vice Admiral Harward and all Navy, veterans, staff, faculty, and students please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise or remain standing for the benediction.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, for these men and women, a new voyage is now underway as they start a rigorous and challenging academic year. In the days and months ahead, we ask for each person present here, for faculty, staff, and student, that you grant them clarity of thought and expression as they wrestle with new ideas and difficult concepts. For the students and their families, may this be a year of new friendships and unique opportunities. And in the midst of readings, examinations, papers, seminars, and discussions, help us to remember that what we learn here will influence not only our own lives, but will also help safeguard liberty, peace, and freedom around the globe. Please give us wisdom and strength this day and every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for the departure of the official party. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Thank you for joining us this morning.